Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today I'll be tackling some World of Warcraft. I'm currently on the Battle for Azeroth beta, which I believe is available to anyone who wants to try it, so go download it and test stuff out to make this game refined and as good as it can be. Some of you may know that I am an avid priest player. I'm a priest main, and more specifically, I'm a discipline priest main. So I thought that today I would bring a quick beginner's guide style video where I don't go too in-depth, but I give enough information to hopefully allow new players to get into the spec if they so desire. But quickly before I jump into the skills, let me first clarify what the discipline priest is going for. For Battle for Azeroth, the Discipline Priest is primarily, well, still functioning as it was in Legion, but it has a little bit more emphasis, I believe, on damage mitigation and reduction through shields. Along with the shielding, they also have a mechanic known as Atonement, which allows their damage abilities to also heal allies. I will quickly explain that in a little bit, but first let's get on into the basic bread and butter skills that every discipline priest should have. For the damage abilities over on the left of my hotbar, you have your basic smite. This is your auto attack pretty much, and it also applies a debuff on the enemy that you strike, which reduces their next damaging attack by a certain amount. In this case, it would reduce it by 938. For your second damaging ability, which also functions as a healing ability, we have Penance, which shoots 3 bolts of light at the target, damaging them. Secondly, you could cast this on an ally to heal them up. I have Power Word Solace for my third ability, which is a talent, which I will go over after the bread and butter stuff. But primarily this is a mana regeneration ability. And I have Purge the Wicked here, which is a traded version of a bread and butter skill known as Shadow Word Pain, which is a dot. Just Purge the Wicked is a talent. And finally, we have Shadow Fiend, which is a summoned ability where you summon a Shadow Fiend to attack the target for 15 seconds. So those are your basic damaging abilities. Over here are your supportive, healing, and shielding abilities. First off, we have our most iconic ability, Power Word Shield. This has been changed in Battle for Azeroth to be spammable, and it works just like an instant cast heal, but it's a shield. This takes the place of Plea, which was an ability in Legion. They got rid of it, and they kind of just made Power Word Shield the new Plea, which looks like this. The bubble. I'm gonna get my character from sitting down. Other than the shield, we have Shadow Mend, which is a casted heal, which does a fairly large bulk of healing, but it will also take some damage every second until they reach a certain health ticks of damage if you're in combat. So Shadow Mend does an initial large heal, but will slowly tick their health down, not drastically, but more so minor. So just be aware of that. I've never really had issues with the damage portion of Shadow Mend, but definitely something to keep in the back of your mind. Thirdly, we have Power Word Radiance, which is an AoE heal, which also applies Atonement. Oh, just to mention, Power Word Shield, Shadow Mend both apply Atonement as well. So Power Word Radiance will shoot out 3 bolts of light, and technically at the target location. So technically applying 4 stacks of Atonement and affecting 4 players. So it's a decent AoE heal, and you also have 2 charges of it. So if you happen to be in a raid and you have a lot of players to cover, you can double cast this if need be. And finally, we have Holy Nova, which acts as damage and minor healing. I'd say this is primarily more of a damaging ability, but if you're just running around and you just need to heal up a bunch of people very quickly and you're just desperate, Holy Nova could do the trick, but definitely not as strong as it once was. To the top left, we have our cooldowns that we have to use, and they're larger and much more powerful. For F1, I have my Luminous Barrier, which is a talented version of Power Word Barrier. It is a bubble that applies to everyone in a 40-yard radius, absorbing, for this case, 4,000 damage. This, of course, scales with better gear and more levels. On my F2, we have Pain Suppression, which reduces the ally's damage taken by 40% for 8 seconds. Looks like that. It's a really nice skill effect. And we have F3, Rapture. This allows our Power Word shields to absorb an additional 200% for the next 10 seconds. So you can cast Rapture and then just spam Power Word shield. And right now it keeps going up, 17,000 damage, and then I think it will reset and cap off. And that is Rapture. That's its functionality. For the next 3 skills, we have our CC abilities. This is Mind Control, which allows you to take control of someone else's mind. Next, we have Psychic Scream, which is an AoE fear, which makes them run away in terror. And next up is a talent, Shining Force. This is a AoE knockback, which then slows the enemies for 70% for 3 seconds. Looks like this, just blows everyone back and then they're slowed, so it takes them a lot longer to get to you. Next up, we have more of utility-based skills, Mass Dispel, which will cleanse harmful effects on allies in an area. I think it does do quite a bit of mana, actually. And then we have Purify, which is dispelling harmful effects on a single target basis. Looks like that. And next we have Fade, which will remove threat for 10 seconds if we happen to have aggro and we don't want that. Next up we have Leap of Faith, which will pull an ally to our location if they're in trouble. I'm not sure if it works on these guys. Sadly, it does not. Can I pull this guy? No, I can't. I think we have to be in a party. Either or, it will pull a friendly ally to you. So these are our utilities and our cooldowns. And over on here, we have Power Word Fortitude, which is a returning spell, which increases our stamina. Must have been a lot of information to take in if you happen to be new. But just to recap, damaging abilities on the left over here, healing on the right, cooldowns up top, some CC, and then utilities. If you are still having trouble, you can rewind the video and just take things at your own pace and take it slow if you need to. Next up, I'll be covering the talents. I'll be kind of going through these slightly faster because they can be a bit confusing, but if you'd like to learn them in a more in-depth scenario, I always implore people to check them out on their own time. For our tier 15, we have Castigation, which adds an additional penance bolt to our penance. Twisted Fate, which will increase our stats by 20% for attacking and damaging when you attack a person below 35%. Schism, which will increase our damage for 9 seconds on a target and is a 24-second cooldown. Tier 3 is our movement ability spells, Body and Soul, which increases your movement speed if you use Power Word Shield. And because Power Word Shield is swimmable, you can, of course, continue to move much faster. Masochism. This reduces all damage taken by 10% when you use Shadow Mend. Not technically movement, but more defensive. And then Angelic Feather, which is able to be placed on the ground for you to walk over and increases your movement speed. 45, this is your mana regeneration. Shield Discipline, which will grant 0.5% of your maximum mana when it is ended. Mindbender, which transforms your Shadow Fiend into a Mindbender, increasing mana regeneration each time it attacks. Power Word Solace, the skill I'm using right now, is a basic fire and forget ability, which will attack an ally or an enemy and then restore your mana. Psychic Voice reduces Psychic Scream's cooldown. Dominant Mind allows you to mind control. But mind control has a 2-minute cooldown now, and it is not used against players. And more importantly, you can control your own character now too. Shining Force, the talent I am using right now, is your AoE knockback. 75, Sins of the Many. This increases your damage by 12%, but will diminish for each person you have Atonement on. Contrition, when you heal with Penance, everyone that has Atonement will also be healed for a certain amount. Shadow Covenant. This acts similarly to Power Word Radiance. It's an AoE heal, but will apply a healing absorption barrier on allies, meaning you have to heal them past, in this case, 1,364 for them to receive more healing. For your 90 tiers, this is where you're getting extra abilities. I'm taking Purge the Wicked, which replaces Shadow Word Pain. Divine Star, which is a linear AoE attack, which travels in a line and comes back to you, healing and damaging enemies. Or healing allies, damaging enemies. And then Halo, which is a large AoE heal and damaging ability, which will expand in a very large 30-yard radius. And for your 100 talents, these are very powerful. Lenience. Atonement reduces damage taken by 3%. I will say, I mean, I just said powerful, but I don't know. Lenience is kind of meh to me right now. 3% is okay if you want to continue to take the damage reduction route. Luminous Barrier, which I have talented instead of Power Word Barrier. This will apply a large bubble on allies in a 40-yard radius. Evangelism, the final one. This will extend the duration of all your active atonements by 6 seconds. Pretty nice, you know, if everyone's atonement's about to run off, pop this and everyone's back up to increase 6 seconds of an atonement. So, as I was saying, let's look at atonement. So, the main mechanic of atonement, I will just read it off to you. Power Word Shield, Shadow Mend, and Power Word Radiance apply atonement to your target for 15 seconds. And this means when you use damaging abilities, 60% of the damage you do is converted to healing on an ally with atonement. Sadly, there aren't any damaging golems or training dummies around here, but I'll just show you how to apply atonement. So for this one, we'll cast Power Word Shield, and then you can see there's atonement right here. For this one, we will cast Shadow Mend, which will apply atonement. And finally, Power Word Radiance, which will also apply atonement in an area. For Power Word Radiance, the atonement applied is not 15 seconds. It is 60% of the 15 seconds. I'm pretty sure this is only because it's an AoE and that it's much easier to get everyone. So they don't want it to be as strong as, like, say, a single target and you going one by one, one by one, one by one. So that is how you apply atonement. And then once you apply atonement, you can cast your damaging abilities. So let's say we cast Power Word Shield on this one and it has atonement. This is, let's just pretend this is a damaging dummy. And then you'll cast Penance on this one. And then portions of the damage you do to the enemy will be transferred to the ally. So I think that is the basis of Discipline Priest. Damaging abilities are converted to healing on players with atonement. You have shields and damage reduction skills, and you're overall quite active. So let's transfer over to some actual combat in a dungeon, and I will explain some situations over there. See you all in the dungeon section. Heyo everyone, and welcome to the gameplay section. So you might have just noticed right off the bat, I started by using Power Word Fortitude to increase my party members' stamina, I believe it is. Could be totally forgetting what it actually does. But this is the very first boss of the dungeon that I've ever played in Battle for Azeroth, and it was fairly easy, I will say. But I went straight into my rotation and I applied Atonement to the tank, my ally tank, by using Power Word Shield. And once the Atonement was on, I kind of just started spamming with Smite, Penance into Power Word Solace, also applying Purge the Wicked at the beginning of the fight. The dots are important to just continually have smaller ticks of healing going up. The one fun part about playing a Discipline Priest is that they have quite a bit of mobility, with Penance being able to be casted on the move, Power Word Solace not having a cast time, and Purge the Wicked not having a cast time either. So keep that in mind if you are in some trouble. So here I wanted to highlight this because this was a very chaotic situation where the tank went off and started pulling things and we weren't there to assist. No one's fault, and I basically wanted to showcase this to see what happens in an AoE scenario. What I wanted to do and what I started doing was casting Power Word Radiance to get AoE atonements, and also using Shadow Mend when need be. Here I'm using Holy Nova just to get some more AoE damage and minor healing on the allies. I didn't know how much damage I'm really doing, but I was just doing it as a last ditch effort to try to do some damage. So here I'm using Power Word Radiance to get some more atonement on everyone, and I am applying Purge the Wicked on everyone I can to keep those smaller ticks up. Here my tank gets a bit low, so I'm trying to use Penance on them. My Penance was off cooldown, so I'm using a little Shadow Mend. I also got out of my line of sight, so here I cast Penance to get some nice chunky heals. There are still some enemies up, so I'm just continuing to use Purge the Wicked when need be and applying shields when I need to. So once all of them are done, I just wanted to splash out some Holy Novas just to heal them up a bit. And here is the final boss. This, I had no idea what to expect, because this, once again, is my first time in this dungeon. Didn't know what he was going to do. So I start with my basic bread and butter. I'm talking about bread and butter a lot today. Must be hungry. But I start off by casting Power Word Shield on my tank to get the atonement rolling. And from there, I start with Smite, Penance, and Power Word Solace once again. With the Discipline Priest, you do have a fairly limited toolkit for damage, which is nice for me and for some players who like to have a minimal damaging toolkit to what to do, because it's fairly simple and easy to get into once you do a couple bosses. There was some AoE damage with the bombs, and I'm always ready to apply more shields to everyone in the party when need be. Here, I was worried about everyone being targeted, so I used my Luminous Barrier, one of my cooldowns, just to preemptively shield everyone. And I think that is an important part about the Discipline Priest, is to know when things are happening and to react to them accordingly. So from here, I continue to smite and to just do what I do best as a Discipline Priest. I hope everyone enjoyed. He's about to go down. Like the video if you liked it. Comment down below on what spec you'd like to see next. And subscribe for more content. And I'll see you all in the next video. Bye, everyone. Mwah.